He is always charging his people up to do the same. He leads people to Christ regularly. He is modeling outreach that other people can imitate. How do his people respond? For a long time, they cheered. They applauded him. They affirmed him for his evangelistic heart. Then almost none of them ever put their toe in the water being a witness for Jesus themselves. Jake wanted missional leaders and missional people, but most of his people were the audience and not the actors. More on Jake's story to come. Many church people can be like Jake's were. After all, people may think, we pay the pastor to do that sort of thing. That is one of the many responsibilities that comes with the role, one of the many hats the pastor needs to wear. Why else do we pay the pastor to be the professional? But when we, as the people in our churches, make somebody else responsible for the outreach mission of the church, whether the senior pastor or other professionals, or the outreach committee, or a traveling evangelist, then the people in our lives who do not know Christ and are not connected to a congregation never will be. It is that simple. Although church culture change must begin with the life of the senior leader, it cannot stop there. It has to go much further, into the lives of the other leaders and congregants in the church. That handoff is the critical one, if any church is actually going to develop missional leaders and become a conversion community. Pastors of top 10% conversion growth churches are more consistently hearing reports of their members engaging in evangelistic conversations. In fact, these pastors are twice as likely to strongly agree that they hear stories of other people in their church actively sharing their faith than the remaining 90% of churches. Churches that are effectively growing through conversion growth have found ways to activate their people to be witnesses wherever they live, work, play, or study. We found this statistic in our survey of 3,000 churches of every size, and we also found it in our survey of 1,500 churches with attendance of 250 or smaller. Both surveys highlighted this statistic as predictive, meaning that if the people of your church are sharing their faith and faith story regularly, your church is far more likely to become a conversion community. What's more, having multiple people in your church who are reaching out and sharing their faith is significantly more predictive than having an exceptionally evangelistic leader. In other words, senior leaders need to be modeling outreach if their people are ever going to be missional leaders and followers of Christ. However, our research shows that getting all our leaders and people throughout the church to become missional is the gold standard. That is when things really start to move forward, when people are reached and communities are influenced for good. So how can you catalyze your people into vibrant and effective witness? By returning to Jake's story and taking a closer look at how he began to activate others toward outreach. We will discover key tools to help us multiply missional leaders in our own contexts. Jake had been effectively reaching out to unchurched individuals in his life for years. He'd also been consistently sharing outreach stories with the members of his church, but despite his best efforts, his church members didn't seem to be mobilized toward outreach at all. In our cohort conversations about the research and stories from other pastors, Jake began to see his situation differently. He realized that his people saw him as an extrovert who was a great salesman for whatever he was excited about, and therefore someone who was really good at evangelism. As a result, many of his people couldn't relate to him or imitate him. Jake knew that he needed to change his approach, so he chose Colby to help champion evangelism in his church. Colby was a business-oriented, down-to-earth guy, and the people in his church could identify with him. Colby already carried a passion for evangelism and loved using meals and celebrations to reach out. He gradually built relationships by hosting people in his backyard for burgers or barbecued pork, or by inviting people to meals at local restaurants. He also loved playing golf, so he joined a golf league and began regularly connecting with other men in the community. He naturally shared his faith story as he cared for people, ate with them, and played golf with them. Not long after that, Colby began sharing stories with the church about how he was reaching out to the community and the ups and downs he was experiencing along the way. The stories were told in a way that made everyone want to take somebody out to eat as well. Colby communicated so much enjoyment.